Two Tribes and Toxteth. During the early days of Sons in Egypt, we would spend most of our social time in the warehouse or the Harrington. The warehouse was a live music venue, and if there were a decent band playing, we would go along and see them. I remember seeing a seven-piece Thompson Twins there and being blown away. We loved going to the Harrington because of the music we could hear. Steve Proctor was the DJ and he would play all the stuff we liked. Time had moved on. True punk was dead, and this was the beginning of electronic music and new romanticism. Kraftwerk, Ultravox, Depeche Mode and loads of other choice cuts by artists you'd never heard of. When Steve played at other venues, we would go there too. The State and Cagney's were his two most popular gigs. The State was an amazing venue and the first local club I had been in that had lasers like the Camden Palace. The whole scene around Liverpool at that time was great in terms of clubs and places to hang out. It was a stark contrast to what was happening to the city itself. The city was, and still is, a place where the party never stops in my opinion, but the Liverpool of today was not the place it was in the early 80s. I'm not a political or social historian, and I wouldn't begin to try and explain the storm that was brewing in the city, but the Conservatives were now in power, and there were no little blue enclaves on the political map of Liverpool, and the miners were not the only ones who were feeling a kick from Thatcher's boot. The summer of 1981 saw disgruntled youth taken to the streets in London and Birmingham, and Liverpool was next. A routine arrest in Granby Street followed by accusations of police being heavy-handed was the spark for the powder keg, and within 24 hours buildings were on fire. The Rialto, a former cinema and ballroom converted into an antique warehouse in Liverpool 8, would be the epicentre of what would become known as the Toxteth riots. Holly lived just down the road from it in a loft conversion on Catherine Street, and I remember him telling us about seeing the glow of flames and flashing blue lights from his rooftop as he witnessed his neighbourhood being burnt down around him. The cells were not too far away, but I don't remember the rioting stopping us from rocking. The band hadn't moved on since getting on the telly, and I can't remember the reason he gave, but Ped didn't think it was going anywhere, and he was off. His departure led to the departure of Holly a couple of weeks later, and we were down to a trio. We tried other drummers and settled on one for a while, but I think we were beginning to realise the band had run its course. While we were trying to carry on with a new drummer, Ped had teamed up with Mark O'Toole and had booked some rehearsal time for themselves along the corridor from us. Mark was really into Bow Wow Wow and loved the rapid-fire percussion of Dave Barbarossa twinned with the pneumatic slapping of Lee Gorman, and I think his initial teaming with Ped was to try and build a band from the rhythm section up. I remember hearing the fledgling notes of Two Tribes coming from another cell, and even without a guitar the sound was full on. Within weeks of Holly following Ped out of our door, he followed him through another one to his new venture with Mark. I think Holly wormed his way in a little because I don't remember Mark and Ped being that impressed with him in the beginning. Throughout the last 25 years, Holly's version of events would have you think he was some Bowie-like genius who was trawling Liverpool looking for talented musicians, and he selected Mark and Ped because he thought they had some potential. I don't believe this to be the truth. When Holly left Sons in Egypt, he was going to our college and was packing in music. Individually, Mark and Ped had potential, but as a rhythm section, that potential was quadrupled. When Holly joined them, I think Ped and Mark were bringing more to the table than he was, and I think his version of plucking unknowns to take them to stardom is insulting to both of them. In his book, he claims that he and Ped had left and decided to form this new band with Mark, but as I recall, Mark and Ped had been playing together a good few weeks before Holly showed up. This isn't the only time that I will contest the Johnson version of events in this book. I've got no axe to grind with Holly, but there are some things in his version that are incorrect, and some incorrect and hurtful. He may believe his version to be true, but that's not enough to qualify it as fact. The same rule applies to me, and it's a matter for others to debate the difference between the two versions, but at least there are now two angles to look at it from. Jed was recruited to fill the guitar slot, and a short mixed race girl called Sonia Mazunda was added as backing vocalist. I think her costumes were more important than her singing when it came to her being hired. The band gained a support slot with local band Hamby and the Dance for a show in Pickwick's, and I went to see them. They were great and had a different sound from other bands in Liverpool at that time. Sonia looked impressive and shook what her mama had given her, but she sounded like a scalded cat at times, and there were even times her singing was so far out of tune she was in the next postcode. If I remember rightly, Paul was performing backing vocals for Hamby and jumped up on stage to perform with Frankie, and I guess this may have been his audition. Next I heard, he was in and Sonia was out, and two girls scantily clad in leather had joined. I didn't get to see the Leather Pets until I saw the band play at Jodie's. Jodie's was a gay club, but there were lots of straight boys and girls there too because they loved the music. Steve Proctor used to DJ there, and he played all our usual favourite electronica and mixed it with American high-energy dance to satisfy both gays and straights. Jodie's was a basement, and when Frankie came on stage, they were introduced with a tape playing the theme from Mad Max 2 and smoke blasting out from a smoke machine. Whoever was in charge of the smoke effects got a little carried away because nobody in the small basement could see the band until halfway through the second song. It was another great gig, but more exciting and more intimate and more in your face. There were many good bands in Liverpool at that time, but this lot were up another gear in my opinion, and there was definitely a buzz beginning, even though their appearances could be counted on one hand. I was as proud of my two cousins watching them play in that smoky basement as I was when I had seen them play at the Norgreen Social a couple of years before. Frankie Goes to Hollywood looked to be going places, but I didn't realise then that I'd be on the bus with them.